Hi, welcome to another episode of the Nonprofits. And today we're going to talk about one appointment that our new president is making. And to take us there, Cindy Plaza is going to lead us along the way. Take it away, Cindy.
Hey, every single person Trump has nominated for a position in his future government is problematic in some way. Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr., Mehmet Oz, and dozens of others. Today, we're looking into Pete Hegseth, who is set to get a defense secretary position, which is not nothing. Trump wants him there because of his experience serving in the military, but we now learn that he was flagged as a potential military inside threat because he wears a tattoo associated with white nationalist groups. This story is from ABC News by Lucien Brueggemann and Nathan Luna on November 18, 2024.
Yeah, I think it's a real problem, probably more than most people are looking at. I do wanted to ask AJ, though, because we're not talking about some tattoos. Can you elaborate on the nature of his tattoos, exactly what they are?
Yeah, Hegseth's tattoos first came under scrutiny following the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol because he was being considered as one of the service members to be part of Biden's inauguration security, like the team that they assembled for security. So when they were reviewing all of this information about him, some of his fellow service members became concerned about his tattoo because this specific wording is being used by nationalists. And so he was labeled as an insider threat. That means that there is a risk that this person, whether they're an employee or a contractor or another authorized person, will use any type of information and access to harm the security of the United States. So I think it's irresponsible to consider anyone who in the past has been labeled as a potential insider threat to serve in any capacity with the U.S. government, especially the Defense Department.
Yeah, I think it's a real problem. And I think that there are a lot of people within the conservative movement within America, and I don't want to say all of them, but there does seem to be these few that are putting together conservatism and patriotism with bigotry and white supremacy and fascist idealism. Now, I don't want to say everybody does that, but you get people like Pete Hegseth with this tattoo, and the whole controversy started months ago, and then he was deflecting and said it was that he started talking about how his other tattoo wasn't that. So it's almost like they're trying to hide their real views. What do you think of that, Jonathan?
Yeah, I have a little bit of an interest in this in one particular way. And that's because as a former naval officer, I had a lot to do with primarily physical security, but clearances. And so to me, it seems that this is a really, really bad idea. I'm actually kind of appalled, a little bit disgusted. The current selectees for cabinet positions, predominantly this one, is a bad idea. He doesn't have a lot of military experience. It was with the National Guard, not full time, and except for he was deployed. So there was a 6 to 8 month, I don't know what, but it just makes me nervous when you see about giving an overseeing a position for the largest military operation in the world, all of the detail and absolute complexity of modern warfare, modern acquisition of weapons, development of weapons through DARPA and all that. He has no experience with an upper level military position. And he is going to really take a long time, probably the entire 4 years, to figure out his left hand from his right hand at that point. I have a lot of other problems with it. The gentleman is going to destroy the separation of church and state. His tattoos may be an indication of that, but I think that first, the appointment is simply to test loyalty in the Senate. If they'll pass this guy and those other people, then they are real sycophants. So there are centuries-long military traditions of non-political stance. You're apolitical in the military. And you can be political in your private life, but in the military, wearing a uniform, you're apolitical. That's across all the services. And the training is secular, And the indoctrination is strictly about warfighting. It's a non-preferential treatment of religion. Any religion goes, just leave it out of the military when you're on duty. Your religion don't count no more. Everybody's secular at that point. That whole thing is about to be overturned. And that means that what has been going on illegally in certain military academies, where they are making cadets go to sessions of proselytizing by evangelicals, or have like extra duty or other things they have to do, which are work related if they don't go. And even up to the point, some chaplains in the military have boasted about being evangelical and creating Jesus warriors, when these people have just gone through training that has put them at the lowest point they have ever been in their life. And they're grabbing them at this point. Now, there are organizations that have fought back against this and are fighting back against this. But I am going to tell you that if you're sleep deprived, hungry, soaking wet, and cold, it's not the time to be preaching religion at you. It's time to be preaching how you not get that way in that situation. So it's just a really, really nasty situation. And this guy has no clue what he's doing once he gets there. He doesn't have a clue now. He won't have a clue later. And he can't be trained in the time allotted to be able to do a senior military position like that. If he had been an admiral or a general, he would have had an entire fleet or an entire brigade to give him the knowledge about how to order stuff, how to find stuff, how to contract for stuff, how to get that stuff to the troops, how the transportation system works, how all that's organized when you're going into a conflict, during the conflict, and after the conflict. I just don't think that he's going to be able to handle all that in any way that is going to be applicable to any stressful situations we come across. And in the volatile world right now, that is not who we need in this position. So this will be a disaster. And if the senior military officers are here's another point, if the senior military officers are too slow to implement the policies of this individual, what happens then?
Cindy, how have you been feeling throughout this whole election and nomination process? I know I haven't been feeling too good about it, but what's your take on it, especially since you're not an American?
Yeah, so after I saw the results of the election, and more importantly, I saw several commentators saying that basically he won thanks to trans hate. And that sent me into a state of dread and despair. I didn't turn on the news for an entire week, stayed off Facebook and YouTube and everything for an entire week. And each nomination just keeps this feeling. Trump seems to be picking the worst candidate for every single position. Here we are talking about hiring someone to lead the US military that was expelled from it because he's an inside threat, which is crazy. The very type of people you really don't want in the military put in charge of it. And that's for Trump. And he does that for every position. So we'll probably do a segment on how he plans to avoid having to vet his nominees through Congress. Maybe we'll talk about in a future episode. But this seems to me like the first step to autocracy. Limit the powers of Congress and have the president decide everything and put sycophant in charge of the highest positions. But to me, there's a bigger issue here, and Jonathan seemed to go in this direction. Having installed Christian supremacists in many high places and high-level positions increases the risk that the US will use its global influence to impose its religion on the rest of the world. So far, the US expansionism has been fueled by greed and power. But if you add a religion to the mix, especially with the current situation in the Middle East, you'll get a very, very explosive cocktail, as if Trump wasn't, scary enough for the rest of us outside the US. There's that threat in the future. So, Yeah, not great.
Hey, I don't think it's very great either, honestly. AJ, we talked about the tattoos a little bit. Do you think that you could legitimately say that these tattoos are a sign of his faith and not of his political views?
Well, firstly, I want to clarify for the viewers, because I don't think we've described this specific tattoo that we're talking about. It's a tattoo that says Deus Vult, which means God wills it. I'm sorry, I probably messed up the pronunciation, but it's okay. So it means God wills it. And in recent years, this phrase has been appropriated by far-right and neo-Nazis and extremist hate groups to incite violence. So this is problematic with that one as it is. And I don't think that there's a way to make this specific tattoo about faith. That's because this isn't the only concerning tattoo. If this was his only tattoo of the sort, then, I wouldn't look at it twice. But the fact is, he has several alarming pieces of ink. In addition to the obvious one that we just discussed, he also has the Jerusalem cross on his chest. And this isn't just any cross, okay? He can claim that it isn't hateful all he wants. But history says otherwise. This was a symbol of the Knights Templar and is also referred to as the Crusaders' cross. That's all you need to know about that one, right? In addition to that one, he has on his upper arm the 13-star flag, it's called. And underneath it is like an AR-15 assault type rifle. Then there is the cross with a sword on his arm that references a biblical quote from Matthew. And that says, "Do not think that I have come to bring peace to earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword." So this is like fighting sort of tattoos that are inciting violence. And he has patriotic nationalist tattoos, that one could definitely recognize as far-right symbols, like the one on his lower arm that says "We the People," or the snake that says, the join or die snake that represents the American Revolution. And I mean, when you combine all of these tattoos, like I said, it's not just one, it's the collection of all of them as a whole. What else do you expect but this big, bold, "I'm a Christian nationalist" outcry message written literally all over his body?
I'm not completely convinced, I'll be honest with you, that what his tattoos are, I can see them being interpreted in two different ways. I also want to point out that Deus Vult was like a catchphrase of the Crusades as well. So a lot of the Crusaders were yelling in the battles, so God wills it. I can see where he can honestly say these are part of my faith and not my political views. And I think that's one of the things that is a problem here, is because there's this ambiguity about the tattoos. I'm not sticking up for Pete Hegseth, believe me. But I just don't know that we can honestly say for a positive 100% that these tattoos are representing that. Now, John, I know you said you had some concerns about the separation of church and state over this. Do you have any other concerns maybe that, about the military, his leadership of the military?
I have a lot of issues with this particular nominee. And one of the ones that is probably of great interest to the Pentagon itself is that this person is going to be demanding, just like his boss, total loyalty, which means that anybody who objects to a order or a policy that's illegal or an illegal order can be just replaced with another sycophant. The problem with that is that most senior officers are very, very loyal to one thing, the Constitution. So if you give them an illegal order, they're probably going to refuse to take it. If that is doubled down on, they have a choice. They can either...
You hope.
They have a choice. They can either do what they're told, do what they're ordered to, or resign. If all the senior leaders who know what they're doing resign, what do you have leading your military? So that's a major concern for me. The other thing is that this person would probably normally fail any background check to get a clearance. So since he has to be dealing with extremely classified material in the military, above the secret level, he's probably going to get a clearance by default because of his position. And that's not the way to do it. We have another possible or probable, in my mind, leak of very sensitive information to our enemies and to people who are not thinking well of us. So these are just two more of the real problems I have with this. Our literal security as a nation is at stake with this, and somebody is just playing roulette with it. And I'm just not comfortable with any of this.
Cindy, how worried are you about the religious nature of some of the recent cabinet nominations? Do you think that this is going to create real problems for our nation, for the United States?
Yes, I think it's going to create real problems for the US and for the rest of the world, because we all know that even in 2016, when Trump was elected, it was because of the evangelical vote. And so now he has no restraint, because he doesn't need to appeal to moderate people, because he won't try to get a third mandate. So he can do whatever he wants. And that's scary. That's scary because the guy has no limit. He doesn't have any shame. He doesn't have any decency. He doesn't have anything. The only thing he has is, I want people to adore me. And that's everything he wants, and money, and avoid prison. And that's why he tried to get elected in the first place. So, yeah, I think it's terrifying. And even though it's not exactly white supremacism that's displayed by his tattoos, it's still, as AJ described it, it's still, I want to impose religion to everyone. That's something that's very scary, because we also know that Trump is going to try to use the military to help with his deportation setup. And so if he does, and we start seeing people from different religions inside those camps, what do you think people like him are going to do to Muslim people, for example? What do you think his tattoo tell you he's going to do?
I have to agree with Cindy. Sorry, I have to agree with you, Cindy. Like, I have a lot of respect for anyone that serves in the military, right? He may be a decorated veteran, but this does not give someone the skills and the background necessary to run the defense department of an entire country. And you can tell that Hegseth's goal is really clear from his public messages, okay? He has it in his mind that everyone is targeting Christianity. He's a very hardcore Catholic. And he's publicly stated on social media that the targeting of Christians, conservatives, patriots, and everyday Americans will end on day one of the new administration. So he has a clear goal. He has a clear message. And yeah.
And it's not even that they were being targeted. See, that's a narrative they're trying to say, that the other people were being targeted, that they were being targeted. It's another claiming victimhood for people who are in the majority and in the powers structure. So it's like, that's just such a lie, and it's deceptive. And this guy's deceitful, just like anybody else he's chosen for his cabinet. But I'm just really not happy, because this guy also has to be somewhat of a diplomat. He negotiates with other people's defense and war departments, and has to work with other people, like the South American and African nations, joint exercises. And if he's a white supremacist, that could cause a lot of problems in the negotiating room too. If he just makes a few slips, we could lose allies, and that's going to be a problem as well. But I totally agree with Cindy and AJ that there are so many reasons why this is a bad idea.
I'm wondering who is going to suffer the most, whether it's the American people or the rest of the world. And I don't know.
That's a good question. I think it's probably going to be the rest of the world, unfortunately. And John, I do want to point out that there has been a lot of really bad militaries where there were people in that military force before it got bad who decided to follow the new bad leader. And it's happened throughout history. So even though we hope that our officers, our high level officers, will follow the Constitution, that's all we can really do is hope. And if you'd like to hope to see more nonprofits, you can do it by clicking right here.